And welcome back to our Sharon Sfasamas Parshas Lech Lecha Tavshin Peivav. There's a medrash at the beginning of our parsha, which the Sfasamas brings down again and again throughout his Mamarim on Parshas Lech Lecha, where the medrash goes in and gives us a mashal to help us understand the process that Avram Avinu went through in order to uncover and discover the Rabban Hashem's presence in this world. Says the Eiliga medrash, Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Mashal la'echad, she'yover makom l'makom, a person who is traveling from place to place. V'rab bira achas talakas. Suddenly he sees a big, beautiful, lit up palace. Amar Taimer Shabir Zubalaimanik. Is it possible that this big, beautiful palace is just sitting here and wasn't created by anybody, and there's nobody that lives in here? Hits itself balabira. Suddenly, the one who owns the palace appears to him. Amalai Noah Nihu balabira. The question he asks is a good question, and you're right. There's somebody who created it, somebody who built it with an intent, and I am actually one who did it, and I live in it. Anihu balabira. Kach lefishay Avram Avinu Amar. Avram Avinu looked around at the beautiful world Hashem created. He looked around at the sun and the stars and the moon. He looked around at the people that are around him. He looked around at the animals and the plants, and he said, is it possible? Is it possible this world wasn't created by a creator for a specific purpose? Hits itself HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Baruch Hashem appears to Avram Avinu. I'm the one who created the world, and I created it for a purpose of people like you, like Avram Avinu, to be able to go ahead and uncover and discover the Rabban Hashem hiding behind all of reality, behind the Teva. Zaktis Vasemis, what does the word mean? Bira Deilakas. And the Mefarshim in the Medrash go ahead and discuss various pshatim, what it means, but the Medrash says something very specific. When the Medrash gives a mashal, it doesn't just say that a person saw a bira, he saw a palace, but he saw a bira delakas. Some understand that the word bira delakas means a lit up, a beautiful palace, a palace that all the lights were on, and he understood that obviously if the lights are on, it has to be that somebody's there. Others understand bira delakas means a lit up palace, a palace that was on fire, not lit up in a way that was beautiful, but lit up on fire. Avram Avinu saw the chaos of the world and said there has to be somebody who's in charge of all the chaos, somebody who's running all the chaos. But Zakteelikas Fasemis, the word delakas means something else perhaps as well. And he brings from his grandfather the Helig Chedush Harim in the year Tafresh Lamed Daled that the word delakas means to run after. We find that when Yaakov Avinu was chased by Lavan, the pasuk says the lakta acharei. The pasuk in Bereshis Parak Lamed Aleph says that Yaakov Avinu says, "Why do you run after me? Why are you chasing after me?" Yaakov Avinu left with Rachel and Leah and his children, Bilhah and Zilpah, and all of their children. And Yaakov Avinu asks Lavan, "Why do you run after me?" The word delakas, says this Fasemis, can also mean to chase after, to run after. What exactly did Avram Avinu see? Avram Avinu saw that the world was moving at a very quick pace, and the world was going somewhere. The world wasn't just sitting, laying stagnant, sitting in one spot, but he saw that the world was in a state of constant movement. Avram says this Sfas Emes. Avram Avinu understood, and Avram Avinu thought that the way things should be is that everything should be resting in its proper place. And what does he see suddenly? He sees Bira Delakas. He looks at the world and he sees that the world is moving. The world is in a constant state of motion, going somewhere. And Avram Avinu is trying to figure out, where is the world going? Where is this palace? Where is this beautiful world that Hashem created? Where is it going? What's the goal of it? Where is it headed? The Shiva Hashem Yisbarach Kain Ritzoni Yisbarach. The one Hashem said, "This is my Ratzon. Sheba Olam Hazeh Yerak Yegia V'Loi Menucha." The one Hashem said, "This is what I want Olam Hazeh to look like. To be a world of running, a world of chasing, a world of looking for more. That a person's never satisfied with what they have in Ruchnius. A person's never satisfied with what they've done, but a person says, I've done, but I want to continue doing. That this world is not a world of Menucha. The world of Olam Haba is a world of Menucha. It's a world in which a person is able to sit and be able to be nenemis zivashchina, that tzaddikim are able to be yeshvim v'atarisem bereishim. But this world, says this Sfas Emes, the Hashem created it in a way that it's in a state of constant movement, because the world is constantly heading towards a greater and greater place. And the Hashem said, I did this on purpose. Sheba olam hazeh yeh rak yegia v'loi menucha. That the world should be a world of yegia and not manucha. Says this Vasamis, this is why when the Hashem tells Avram Avinu, when he first appears to him, after Avram Avinu has searched and he went ahead and he saw that the world is in a state of constant movement, and the Hashem told him, I made it that way. What does the Hashem tell him right away? Lech Lecha. The same way the world is in a state of constantly looking to perfect itself, that the world is created in a way that it's moving, because a person needs to be on a constant search and a constant mission to better themselves, to get to a greater and higher place. Says the Hashem to Avram Avinu, Lech Lecha. You need to do the same thing. Don't stay in one spot. Don't stay not just in one physical spot, but don't stay on one spiritual level. Lech Lecha. Be in a state of constant movement. Lech, go Lecha to yourself. uncover yourself, discover yourself, get to the place of recognizing the real you, and be able to uncover more and more as you're in a state of constant growth and constant aliyah. Says this Vasamis, this is why the Rebbeinu Shem didn't tell him where to go to, because there is no destination. If the Rebbeinu Shem would simply say, go to Eretz Canaan, that would mean, okay, that's the final destination. Go there, and then you can arrive, and then you've arrived at your destination, and you could be in a state of menucha. You can go ahead and sit, and you can go ahead and relax. But the Rebbeinu Shem doesn't want. The Rebbeinu Shem wanted to show Avraham Avinu, and ultimately every Yid, that the avodah of Yid is Lech Lecha. We're Ela Aretz Asher Reka. There is no destination. There is no final state. There is no place where a person is able to say, now I've reached the state of completion, and now I can rest. That only happens Achamei V'Eshem. That only happens in Olam Haba. That only happens La'asad Lavei. But the world that we live in, the world of Olam Hazeh, is that a person is. The Rebbeinu Shem told Avraham Avinu is that a person needs to be in a constant state of Lech Lecha, a constant state of movement, not just moving in a physical way, but moving to greater madregas. That Lech Lecha wir ela aretz hasher reka. That every time you feel like you reach the destination, you start to look up and you recognize that there's another greater destination in front of you, and you're never able to get to the final destination because that only happens achamei v'eser. And the middle of the mitzias of what the Rebbeinu Shem told Avraham Avinu is ela eretz asher reka ki yada shelo yasik b'shleim. But you're never going to get to a state of completion in Olam Hazeh. Raklius mishteikik tamid. What is your goal? Your goal is to be mishteikik tamid. Your goal is to be constantly looking further in front of you, constantly setting new goals and new places that you're able to reach, and new desires to be able to get to higher and greater heights, and therefore this is what the Rebbeinu Shem told him. Ela eretz hasher reka. The seder ish Yisrael. Zakta heligas fasam is the seder of what a yid does. Is like yideshem mishteikik lahasig uleshmoy b'kol yisbarach. That because a yid has a desire to hear the call of Hashem, to hear and to be able to go ahead and to be able to recognize and attach himself to the Rebbeinu Shem more zeicha l'shmaya. That a person goes at it is able to be zeicha to taka hear the voice. But what happens afterwards? Va'achakach. And then he goes ahead and he's kind of that hasaga that he has. But what happens? What does it cause? It doesn't cause a person to then become complacent and say, okay, I yearned for something. I desire to get to a certain madrega, a certain level in ruchnias, and now I've achieved it, and now I can rest. But rather a person says, okay, I desired something, now I gained what I desired, and now what do I have? Now I just have a new desire for something greater. That the same way we find that in Gashmi is, Misha Yeshle Mana rates a Messiah, that a person gets $100, wants $200, and like Chazal say, once he gets 200, wants 400. That's in the world of Gashmis, but that's a negative thing. In the world of Ruchnis, it's the most positive thing. That he says, I'm never satisfied with what I have. I want, and then I receive, I'm kaina, and then I say, Rabban Hashem, now I want more. Now I want to go ahead and be able to create new goals and new destinations for myself. That's constantly working on Allah Aretz Hashareka. Losses lev yoser ba'omek, liyish chukasa yoser l'shmaya, v'yiska l'shmaya yoser. And then I hear more, v'chein tamid v'einaycha. And there is no moment of rest. He adam la'amal yulad. A person is created to be in a state of constant movement. U'menucha l'tzadik la'olam haba. The menucha is only for the tzadik la'olam haba. U'ba'olam hazeh rak hayagiyah min la'madrega madrega. This world is meant to be a world of constant movement, of Lech Lecha, wir, and La'aretz Hasher Reka. When you get to the destination, you just create new goals and new destinations for yourself. There is no moment of menucha. There is no moment where a person says, I've reached the final destination and now I can just relax. It's in a state of birur delakas, that it's a palace, but a palace which is running, a palace which is moving constantly, a palace which is looking to get something else. Says the Heligas Vasamis, Ki yoser neicha, L'Hashem Yisbarach me ratzon v'tshuka, she yesh the kol echad me Yisrael, le'eskarav elav l'hasek devet terasei, the Rebbeinu Hashem's greatest ratzon and the Rebbeinu Hashem's greatest tshuka, the Rebbeinu Hashem's greatest hana is when we go ahead and we have a tshuka and we have a desire for something. The Rebbeinu Hashem doesn't just appreciate when we gain something. The Rebbeinu Hashem appreciates much more when we desire for something. And therefore, when the Rebbeinu Hashem sees that we desire something and then He gives it to us and that only causes us to desire more in ruchnias, then the Rebbeinu Hashem says, my real tshuka, my real desire, and my real simcha, and my real nachas is when I'm able to see the constant state of desire of Klal Yisrael. The fact that we want constantly allows us to then be able to be zeichet, to be makarv to Rabban Hashem, and to be masig more muchshe ze yoser chashav lefanav baruch hu. It's more chashav by the Rabban Hashem, the desire that we have to gain the madregas, than the madregas once we actually gain them. Because this is what it means to be a yid. The first statement the Rabban Hashem ever tells, the first yid in the world, Avram Avinu, is Lech Lecha. We're Ela Aretz Asheraka. Move. Constant state of growth, constant state of movement, constant state of setting new goals. This is what it means to be involved in Avodas Hashem, to be a birur delakas, a constant state of running, a constant state of getting to a higher and greater goal. Hashem should help us. We should be zeicha, that we should want big madregas, and as soon as we get those big madregas, not to say, okay, now we're satisfied that we got what we wanted, but to go ahead and to set new goals, to push our boundaries further and further. And when we do that, we'll be zeicha, to be living in a state of constant delakas, constant movement, and then Hashem will be zeicha, to finally have that menucha la'asid lavai in Olam Haba. Have a great Shabbos.